for Coach Coombs.
How we doing, everybody? Wow, that's loud.
Start here, right here on the right. Austin, Kerry.
Could you give us any sort of insight on what your conversations were like with Eli? He was one guy who maybe kind of took people by surprise with his decision. Were you surprised at all?
No, not at all. Had good conversations with Eli and his family actually before the season, which I think is appropriate, and didn't talk about it at all during the course of the season. And then after at the conclusion of the regular season, revisited and then met with both Eli and his family actually at the bowl site. So good conversations. Was not caught by surprise. I think Eli is an elite player, and I think he's going to do very, very well.
Do you find yourself as a position coach at all wanting, certainly you're giving advice, you're trying to help them the best you can, but you also want to keep them around and have them play for you, I think, too. Is it difficult to balance that at all as a position coach?
Sure it is. I think that what happens is you're attached to your players just like you're attached to your own children. At the same time, you want your own children to thrive in their life, and you want that for your players. So would I like to keep them all forever? Sure. I mean, I wish Bradley Roby was still here. I love Bradley Roby. But they're going to graduate. They're going to move on. They're going to attack the next phase of their life. You know, one of the reasons why I came to Ohio State, in addition to have the opportunity to win national championships, is to coach first-round draft picks. And that you have the opportunity to do that here. And we recruit that way, and we try to recruit the very, very best players in the country, try to develop the crap out of them while they're here, give them the opportunity to play at the highest level here, and they see that as their future career. So while it's challenging personally because you become very, very close to your players, I'm very, very proud of them, and I'm eagerly looking forward to how they play in the future.
Front row middle, Dave.
Kerry, I want to get
Hi,
your
Dave.
insights on some of the younger corners in the program.
Sure.
Denzel Ward, Marshawn Lattimore, Glover Williams, Arnett, Norwood. Can you go through all those guys and just maybe say a little bit about each of them?
Absolutely. You know, Denzel played extremely well on the Special Forces this year. He has elite speed. He will thrive in the off-season program. He needs that, and he'll get a good full dose of Coach Marotti, and he'll be a very, very competitive player next year. Marshawn is a very, very gifted athlete who, if we can get him exactly right and exactly healthy, will be a very, very dynamic football player for the Buckeyes. The other guys that redshirted, both Arnett and Norwood. Arnett had injury issue, but I did get a great chance to work with him in bowl practice, and he is going to be a very, very good player. I'm very excited about what I saw in bowl practice. And Josh Norwood is a guy that needs to continue to develop because where he was from a size and strength standpoint when he arrived on campus, and we knew that when we recruited him, that he was going to be a developmental guy. And that's what happens when you take 3 corners or 4 corners in a class. They can't all be at the same level and compete at the same level. Got to kind of space that out. And then Eric Glover Williams had the opportunity to play on special teams and will also benefit from the off-season program. So the good young corners are good young corners, and they're going to develop and they're going to grow. They'll have a great spring. They're going to have a great opportunity to play in the spring, and I'm looking forward to working with all of them. Yep.
Far left, Doug.
Hi, Doug.
Hey, Kerry. I think I have this right. I'm trying to think of it, but it seems like you had Bradley was kind of the number 1 corner, and Duran was the other starter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bradley left, and Duran. You had Duran and Eli.
Right.
And Duran left, and Eli. And Eli and Gary on.
Yeah.
Now Eli's gone. Now you have Gary on.
Right.
There. Is that a plan like that? Is that nice when that works out that way? That maybe you have 1 corner leaving at a time, and that other guy who's played ready to maybe move up to that top spot? And is Gary on ready for this?
Absolutely. Garyon is ready. I'll answer that first. He and I have met several times already about his opportunity to lead in the back end, and that will be his job. It is wonderful when it works out that way. If we end up in a situation where 2 guys graduate the same year, then that's the way it'll be. But it's nice to have a guy who's been a starter, who's coming back to lead the room. You know, and what was great for these guys, and if you even going back, Roby was the same thing, because it was Roby and Travis Howard when we first got here. So it's been the same process. And Duran really established in the room how to lead the room. And Eli was a different kind of leader, but Eli definitely was that guy this year. Very excited for Garyon because he likes that. And he's got a charismatic personality. And he's a guy that's going to he will take over that. He will take over the room. Your unit is always better when the leadership comes from within the group as opposed to from the coach. When you have a young group like we had this year, it has to be a little bit more coach-driven. But this coming year, Garyon's going to be the guy, and he will excel at that. So, and then we'll see what happens.
And then Damon Webb, with the season he had this year, with the time he missed, how much did that set him back at all? And going forward, is he definitely a corner? Could he play safety? Where does he fit into the mix in the secondary?
Well, he's definitely a corner. More than anything, the ankle injury was what set him back. That high ankle sprain took a long time for him to recover, and this offseason for him will be very, very important. But I will tell you that he's one of the best tacklers on the team. He was the starting nickel. He played a lot of snaps of man-to-man coverage in that role, which is what we do out there on the outside. So he's going to come right in and with the other guys, get an awful lot of reps in the spring, and I'm looking forward to that.
Second row middle, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
Urban mentioned that there's guys like Joey that y'all knew were going to leave for the NFL, but then there were maybe a couple that were kind of on the fence. Guys like Tyvis and Eli maybe. Whenever it's late in the recruiting process and y'all lose a couple defensive backs to the NFL, how does that impact, if at all, the way that y'all recruit over the last couple months of the cycle?
Well, it's obviously going to affect you. You can only recruit to the number of scholarships you have. And so for us, while recruiting is a 365-day process, we were recruiting guys in December without necessarily having a scholarship to offer them. And so that changed over the last 2 weeks or so, week. So in that process now, that's kind of exciting because kids that you've been communicating with and all of those kind of things and letting them know right now we don't have one. We like you as a player, but we don't have a scholarship to offer you. Now you do. And so it does change things. And I would say that for every team in the country, but particularly for Ohio State, your needs are constantly evolving. And so we're going to recruit elite players here, and there are plenty of elite players in the country. And that's what the next couple of weeks is going to be about. It'll be a sprint to the finish, and we're excited about that.
Second row right, Tim.
Yeah, Kerry.
Hi, Tim.
How you doing, man?
Awesome.
Good.
Even better than that, actually.
How do you throw? Do you throw like Denzel and Damon and just throw them into the fire in the spring? I mean, how do you get a guy ready for prime time who has not really played prime time on the hot corner?
Here's the
through the course. What's the key to that development?
But it's a great question, and the great thing about the way we practice and do our business is that those guys play every single day. And when you talk about the fire, they're lining up in press man-to-man against Mike Thomas and Jalen Marshall and every one of our receivers, Braxton Miller, on down the list. So they've been doing that. So Denzel has been beaten up for 4 months as a true freshman, and those guys, that learning curve is very steep for them. And there's a lot of days when they walk off the field thinking they're the worst player that anybody's ever seen. And Eli would tell you the same thing from his freshman year. And so would Tyvis and on down the list. And so over the course of that first 4 months, they're finding out they're not maybe as good as they thought coming out. Now, in the springtime, they're going to get a whole lot of that and then some because they're going to be thrust into the starting role. What I did with those guys last year is with Garyon and Webb and those guys in the spring is put them out there with the ones and let them go. Well, that's going to happen again with these young guys. And some of them are going to thrive in that role, and some of them are going to struggle. And that's what you better find it out in March and April because September's too late.
I don't know if this is a dumb question I'm going to ask it, but when you play press quarters, when y'all play so much man on the edges, does it make it in some ways easier to bring a cornerback along where he's either got it or he doesn't, and it's kind of a zero in kind of thing as opposed to knowing all these other zone coverages and things like that? I mean, does it?
I would say that there's two answers to your question. First of all, it's a there's a lot of teaching. I know that it would seem like there's not, but there's an incredible amount of teaching, but it's not teaching coverage, it's teaching technique. And so the training of the technique is very specific to that position. They don't have to know 12 different coverages and how do you play all of them and all of those kind of things. We have variance in our coverage, but they have to know how to play press quarters. And so that's where the lion's share of our time is spent. It has been spent that way over the last 4 months with those guys, and that learning curve is still going to continue. When you say they either have it or they don't, I don't think that's true at all. I think they're all going to get better. I think Arion will get better. I think Eli got better. Eli was a better player this year than he was last year. So they're all going to get better, and it's just a matter of the number of quality reps that we can get to them in that time frame.
And the other thing, you got to see this guy on video, I got to watch him live. What did y'all miss by not having Noah Brown on the offense?
He is a tremendously dynamic football player. You talk about special teams. This is a guy who was going to make a real difference and a real impact in special teams. So he is a big, physical receiver who can play both inside and outside. He's got great down the field speed and also short space quickness. But those guys that are that big and that strong are very challenging to deal with for any corner or safety. And so he's gonna have a phenomenal career at Ohio State. It was very unfortunate that he's hurt, but he'll be dynamic.
Front row middle, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Gary, how are you?
Awesome.
With only 3 defensive starters back, describe what's the right word, what are the right words, the right description for what it's like as a coach when you've got all this young talent, but obviously not a lot of proven talent.
Excitement, energy. I think that this is why you love to coach. It's to develop players. It's to see the growth in players. And so if people are waiting around for us to be apprehensive or fearful, they're at the wrong place. I can't wait to get started with them and get them out there on the field and let them play. We recruit good players, and they're going to show up and they're going to play extremely well. So however many of them, the great thing about this place is so many of them have played in some capacity on special teams or whatever. They've been out there on the field, and we know what we know. We see them every day in practice. So I would say excitement is exactly the right word to describe looking forward.
This was a great defense in 2015.
Yeah.
How good can the 2016 defense be?
Well, I'll be up to the coaches and the players. I mean, I think that they can be very, very good. They're going to be fast. I can promise you that. It's going to be a fast defense, and we're going to have great new recruits coming in. We've got a great group of guys that are returning that have had good depth and good experience. I think that probably, to me, one of the great benchmarks would be the fact that we had 3 starting defensive linemen not playing in that bowl game against one of the third most explosive offense in the country, and those kids played now. And that's what you do at Ohio State, and that's what we're looking forward to. And so, they're going to show up in the 2016 defense. The standard's very high, and it should be, and we're going to play.
If you were to have to practice tomorrow, who would line up alongside Gary on?
Don't know. I mean, they're going to go out there. Webb's going to compete. Lattimore's going to compete. Ward's going to compete. Arnett's going to compete. Norwood's going to compete, and Eric Glover-Williams. And they're going to. They're all going to play. If everybody's healthy, and everybody should be, by the time we line up for spring ball, it's going to be based on how they did in January and February in their off-season program, their preparation, as to who's going to be the other one. Garyon going to be one of them, and one of those other guys is going to be the other one. Good question.
Far left, Doug.
Just on special teams.
This is 2 questions,
I know,
Doug.
but it's special teams.
You're 1 over your limit.
Tim gets like 6 every time.
Well, but he keeps the ball rolling.
I know, he's better at it. I'm trying to learn. When Urban was in here, I think Urban would have talked about special teams for an hour with us if he had.
And as well he should.
Why does he love that so much? And I think this is at least the 2nd year in a row where the field position edge that you guys have gained with pinning them back with your coverage units and then returning the ball well has been such a critical part of your success. Can you maybe explain how much that field position edge really impacts this team and why the boss loves to talk about it so much?
Well, I think two things. One, I would never presume to speak for my boss, but I can tell you this, that the essence of what he believes about football and the way the game is played, the way it is taught to our players, always starts with the conversation about field position and how important that is to everybody. And so as a collective group, when we have these big special teams meetings, it's a stated goal for every kid in this room to provide the offense and the defense with the best starting field position that we can. And I think in this last game was like a 16-yard differential per possession. And for the year going into bowl season, we were at 7.8 yards per possession or something like that. Well, you say, how important is that? I don't know, 12 possessions a game. This was 13 possessions a game. You're talking about over 100 yards of offense or defense. And to me, that is significant in your ability to win the game. It makes sense that if the other team's got to go 80 yards and your offense has got to go 60 yards, you're going to score more times than they are. And we think that that's critical. But I think more than anything for our head coach and probably for our program as a whole, it's so motivational to watch the way those guys attack their business in special teams and how hard they practice and how hard they play. And everybody having an ability to find a role, whether it's a starter like Darren Lee being the right tackle on the punt team, or it's a kid like Denzel who's not starting on anything but the 4 running units and taking great pride in that. You rewind the clock to a year ago and you had Corey Smith and Briante Dunn and the things that those guys did. It's really about the culture of the program. And so when the head coach, who's clearly established what the culture is going to be like, can see it manifested in the play of the special teams units, he gets excited, and so do I. I mean, to me, it's one of the most fun things about our team. There's not a single kid that we recruit that says, I want to be the right guard on the punt team. Not one. But because of the way the culture is here, they learn that is something to love. It's not just something to do. It is something to love. And because of that, those units thrive. And, I get goosebumps talking about it. I love what we do with Special Forces. I love being able to talk to those kids every day. Those meetings are electric. They're fun. And it shows up on Saturday afternoons. So I think that's why he likes it. I really do. And I'm glad he likes to talk about it. It's good stuff.
Speaking of that, though, when you go recruit a quarterback.
Now, it's like 3 questions, Tim. No, go ahead.
But do you, with the way y'all have played defense the last 2 years, do you find it easier to get your foot in the door with the high-level type cornerback that wants to be out there on the island, so to speak? I mean, is it?
Well, come on, now there's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, if
I know, but I'm just saying,
first of all, you only want a guy who wants to be on the island, right? And that guy better love that pressure, and it is pressure. You stand out there, you better be a grown man. You're going to be out there by yourself, and what you do, everybody saw the big touchdown that they got in that game because our guy slipped and missed a tackle. That doesn't happen in any other position in the deal, right? Just the corner, just that guy who's on that island. So the great ones, they want to be that guy. They also understand that if you come in here and you learn how to do that, you probably have a future in football that's going to be very, very prosperous. You watch what Bradley Roby's doing right now for the Broncos. They get that, So for me, from a recruiting standpoint, finding the guys who have the skill set to do that and then letting them just watch what we do and watch how we play. I was on Twitter after that game with all those kids. Did you watch? Did you see? I think our 2 guys, and I don't know what the final stat was, but I think they gave up 16 or 17 passes of more than 10 yards in a 13-game season, those 2 corners. That's ridiculous. If anybody was better than that, I want to know who they are. Because and to line up, Tim, line up like this and say, okay, now you're not going to catch any balls more than 10 yards now. That's real.
But that's Bill, then.
I got a great chance of covering Bill.
What did I tell you about Gary and the way he bounced back from that? Obviously, he had some plays near the end of the game that, do you watch that as much as anything else to see?
The psyche of that player, he better have absolutely no memory and very little conscience, or he's going to struggle. If you're worried about the last series, you're worried about the last play, next play is going to bite you right in the butt. So I have no concerns about Gary on. I remember talking to you guys back in August, and everybody was kind of surprised when I said he's going to be the guy, and emphatically. Well, guess what? He's going to be the guy, and he's going to be a great player here. And if you're going to get open on Garyon, you better bring your lunch. That's an all-day job now. And, you know, did he slip and make a mistake? Sure. And that happens sometimes out there. And you go, you know what you do? The next play, you're going to line up right there nose to nose and go cover that guy.
Coach, thank you very much.
Okay.